Options sound complicated because people mix up two things: the contract and the strategy. An option is simply a contract that transfers price risk between two sides. One side pays for a right, the other side gets paid for taking an obligation. Today I'll explain calls and puts in plain English, including expiration, premium, how buying versus selling actually works, and what options are used for beyond hedging. An option gives its buyer the right, but not the obligation, to do something at a set price before a deadline. There are two types. A call gives the right to buy the stock at the strike price. A put gives the right to sell the stock at the strike price. The seller of the option is on the other side. The seller receives money up front, but takes the obligation to buy or sell shares if the buyer chooses to exercise. That's the big split. Buyers have rights, sellers have obligations. Every option has three key parts. 1. Strike price. The strike is the price written into the contract. It's the deal price at which you can buy, call, or sell, put. 2. Expiration. Expiration is the deadline. After that date, the option stops existing. So options are not just up or down. They are up or down by a certain time. This matters because the market isn't pricing only direction. It's pricing the chance of being in the money before the clock runs out. 3. Premium. The premium is the price of the option. It's what the buyer pays and the seller receives up front. And here's the clean way to understand premium. Premium is made of two components. Intrinsic value. Value the option would have if exercised right now. Example. If a stock is at 105 and you have a 100 strike call, that call has 5 of intrinsic value. Extrinsic value, also called time value. Everything else you're paying for, mainly time and volatility. You're paying for the possibility that the option becomes more valuable before expiration. A simple translation. Intrinsic equals value already real. Extrinsic equals value of the opportunity. This is why options can lose value even if the stock barely moves. Extrinsic value shrinks as time passes. Options are often described as in the money, ITM. A call is ITM if the stock is above the strike. A put is ITM if the stock is below the strike. At the money, ATM. Strike is near the current price. Out of the money, OTM. A call is OTM if the stock is below the strike. A put is OTM if the stock is above the strike. Important. Cheap. OTM options are cheap because they have no intrinsic value and may never become valuable before expiration. You're mostly buying probability, not guaranteed value. Now let's be very clear about the 4 basic positions. A. Buying a call, long call. You pay the premium, you get the right to buy shares at the strike until expiration. Why do it? You want upside exposure with a defined maximum loss. What can happen? If the stock rises enough, the call becomes more valuable. If the stock doesn't rise enough in time, the option can decay and you can lose the premium. Your risk and reward. Max loss, the premium you paid. Potential gain, large, theoretically significant if the stock keeps rising. B. Selling a call, short call. You receive the premium up front. You now have an obligation. What obligation? If assigned, you must sell shares at the strike price. There are 2 versions. Covered call. You already own the shares. If assigned, you deliver shares you already have. Naked call. You don't own the shares. If assigned, you may have to buy shares at the market price to deliver them, which can be very risky. Why do it? income like premium collection, or to reduce cost basis on shares you already own. Your risk and reward. Max profit, the premium you received, plus for covered calls, some limited stock upside until strike. Risk can be large, especially for naked calls because the stock can rise a lot. C. Buying a put, long put. You pay premium. You get the right to sell shares at the strike until expiration. Why do it? Protection if you own shares, hedging, or a bearish bet with defined risk. Your risk and reward. Max loss, the premium paid. Potential gain increases as the stock falls, largest if the stock drops heavily. D. Selling a put, short put. You receive premium, you take the obligation. What obligation? If assigned, you must buy shares at the strike price. Why do it? You're willing to buy the stock anyway, and you want to get paid for setting a buy price. This is often described as getting paid to place a limit order, with the important caveat that the risk is real if the stock crashes. Your risk and reward. Max profit, the premium received. Risk, meaningful downside if the stock falls far below the strike because you may be forced to buy above market price. Exercise and assignment, the operational part. The buyer can exercise the right. The seller can be assigned the obligation. Many traders never exercise. They simply sell the option before expiration to realize profit or cut loss. But assignment is always a possibility for sellers, especially as expiration approaches or if the option is deep in the money. Let's start with the most professional use case, hedging. Imagine you own a stock long-term. You like the company, but you're worried about a crash, earnings risk, or macro headlines. A put option can work like an insurance policy. You pay a premium, and that premium buys you protection for a defined time window. Hedging is one use case, but not the only one. Options are also used for directional bets with defined risk. Example, buying a call instead of buying shares can cap your downside to the premium. Generating income or reducing entry cost. Example, covered calls or selling puts to potentially buy a stock at an effective discount. Expressing a view on volatility, not just direction. Some strategies are built around whether the market will move a lot or stay calm. Building defined risk structures. Spreads combine buying and selling to shape risk. This is where options become engineering. You design payoff, not just predict direction. If you remember nothing else, remember this rule. Options are a bet on direction, magnitude, and time. Before any trade, answer 3 questions. What do I think will happen to price? By when? What is my maximum acceptable loss? If you can't answer those, you're not using options. You're renting hope. Next episode, we can break down the cleanest, beginner-friendly defined risk structure, the bull-call spread, step by step.